Estusia Wajcblum, Rosa Robota, Alla Gartner, and Regina Safirstein, who led the most infamous underground resistance operation inside Auschwitz-Birkenau. It is a story of feminine heroism, resistance, and tragedy, all told through the eyes of Anna Wajcblum Heilman, Estusia's sister and the youngest member of the women's resistance movement. Amid the horrors of Auschwitz, Anna kept a diary that captures the dramatic story of their defiance, their extraordinary courage, camaraderie, and the legacy that bound them together. We are delighted to be joined today by filmmaker Noa Aharoni, whose meticulous research brings this remarkable story further to light. Noa is an award-winning Israeli filmmaker and graduate of Sapir College, and her 2017 documentary Shadows explored the impact of Holocaust survivor trauma on their children. Sabotage is Noa's fourth feature film. If you have any questions during the program, please type them into the Q&A section at the bottom of your screen. And if you haven't yet had the chance to watch the film Sabotage, it'll be available to stream through tomorrow evening, and we'll share the link in the chat. It is now my honor to welcome Noa Aharoni. Hi, Noa.
Hi, Katie. Hi, nice to be here.
Yes, thank you so much for joining us, and all the way from Israel too, especially with the time change. But really, thank you just for creating such a beautiful film that commemorates these unbelievably brave women. Could you start by telling us a little bit about the making of the film? How did you come to this project?
So every year in the Israeli public television and in the television in general, we have the Memorial Day of Holocaust. And like creators always want to find the next story to tell. So my producer, he was looking for maybe telling a story about the Eichmann trial, and he was looking for hours and hours through the Eichmann trial, and then he just he saw something that he didn't heard of before. It was a testimony of a person who was talking about the woman underground in Auschwitz. And he was really curious, and he was talking, Israel Gutman, he was his name, the testimony on the trial, and he said that there was a very brave woman called Rosa Robota, and started telling this tale that we never heard before. And so he was very intrigued by this story, but that it was new to him, as it was to me. And he started to investigate, and then he thought it was an incredible story that we have to tell. He was looking for a female director because he thought that it's a feminine story, and I'm very glad he did. And I was amazed by this story. So I took it another step forward by thinking, how am I going to tell this story? How am I going to tell this amazing story? It's about feminine heroism, as you said before. And I was thinking that I don't want memory agents to tell the story. I don't want the grandsons, granddaughters. I want the women that have been there themselves. And we had the Anna story. She wrote a journal, a diary, and she made it into a book, which was called Far Away from Home. So we looked at her testimony, and I was amazed by her amazing storytelling. So I think this nailed my understanding that the women themselves should tell the story. And from then on, I was looking for more and more testimonies to tell the stories for each and every angle. And so I've got a lot of hours and a lot of testimonies of these women. And what I had to do is like do a little puzzle and just put in the pieces, and who is articulate and who can tell the story. And that's how I found the heroines of this film.
That's fascinating. Thank you so much. I think what's really interesting too is that while we often hear about the 4 women that were murdered as a result of the resistance movement of these women is well over 20 women. And those are just the names that we know. And so it's amazing that you were able to sift through so much of that research and testimony to find their stories.
Yeah, there was a lot. There were a lot more testimonies. Even people that haven't been in the underground, they they were witnesses to the hanging. I'm
Mhm.
sorry if I'm doing any spoilers, but that's the story. And so there were a lot of women that were viewers in this very public hanging. So there's a lot of material on that, and that only means that it was such a big event. And my question was, how did I never hear about it? And that was really um it was really like eye-opening to me. And I was thinking maybe it has something to do about the history of the storytelling, his story, and not she's story. And I decided to change that and to make the female to lead them up and give them the voice that they didn't have.
Mhm. So, and like you say, it was such a big event at the time. Is that why you think it's such an underrepresented story? Because it was a women's story? Because as you know, you and I have spoken before, we know a lot about the male Sonderkommandos and what they
Yeah.
did and their responsibility and action. So why did we then not know the women that aided them?
Yeah, it's like a chain, but every time you tell the story of the Sonderkommando that blew up the crematorium, you only hear the end of the chain. But they couldn't have done that. They couldn't have blow up the crematorium if the women didn't sacrifice themselves and put the little gunpowder in their bodies and were like really taking a risk. Uh, like if they were be found, they were shot dead at the minute at that moment. So yeah, I think it has a lot to do with the male telling the story. And you know that's a shame because you know they were such heroes, heroines, and we should tell their stories.
Absolutely. Well, you mentioned to me recently at this quote that's kind of stuck with me. You said, I never filmed one frame. Everything was from the archives. And as a
Yeah.
historian, that's kind of music to my ears. So I wanted you to speak a little bit to us about what your research was like for this film.
So at the beginning, I didn't know like exactly how I'm going to reenact, how I'm going to tell the backstory because I have testimonies. I based that already that I want the women. But then I thought, how can I reenact the backstory? Which you know, the documentary doesn't have a lot of budget, so I can't make like a huge Spielberg film, and I wouldn't do it anyway if I had the budget because I think I can't recreate Auschwitz, like it's not possible. And then I thought, how can I do it? How can what can I do to make it really visible and also emotional? And I thought, for starters, I thought maybe I will take like a big studio, like a black limbo studio, and put some just actresses, maybe just Estusia and Anna or something really minimalistic. Um, but then I thought maybe it's going to be like melodramatic, and I didn't want that. I just wanted something very gentle. And then little by little, I got the notion that maybe I should work with animation. But then you had the question, there's so many animations, like so many things to do. And I start like digging and seeing creators and like animators, and I met, and then I saw Avi Katz, who like in the end he was the painter, and he was just wonderful, and we spoke, and the amazing scene with Avi, and this is where we connected like immediately. He knew the story because his grandmother was in Auschwitz. She was witnessing the hanging, and she told him all about it before we met. So like he was amazed that we're going to do a film about it, and he was like, of course, on board just right away. And he said that his grandmother, when she saw the hanging, she was like terrified, and she was so she admired those women because she didn't have the courage. She knew about it, but she didn't have the courage to do it. And it's understandable because like it was really life and death. So he was aboard, and then we discussed how we're going to do it. And I wanted like minimalism. I wanted like it was obvious to me that it's going to be black and white, and also very abstract painting, like not particular, not to see like all the details because it's not important. What's important to emphasize the emotion and what's going on with the characters. And also because it's such a hard and harsh story, I thought maybe the animation will just like soften it a little. Maybe it will be easier to digest this horrible story through the animation. And so this is what the road that I like we went, and I really liked the minimalism.
Yes, I think that was extremely powerful, especially the last scene where they're walking up to the gallows. And it really does just add so much to the telling of the story that you're right, you can't recreate Auschwitz. No one can ever do
No,
that. And
no.
so it really enhances the testimony, which I think, as you mentioned before, you chose these testimonies versus contemporary interviews, which I think was a really interesting way of giving these women their voices back in such a strong way. So it was beautifully done.
Thank you. And also when I saw the testimonies, I was really struck by how they were so they were so well dressed and well talked, and like they were like, if you just talk to them and not about that subject, you would never imagine that they've been through hell. This is like what struck me the most. Like, you've been in 4 years in hell, and look, you look so good. You look so like fine, like Polish, like my Polish people. And it was really exciting to me to see them. I really like felt connected to those people, and especially in Anna. I fell in love with Anna.
Yes, I think that connection is really important, especially when we're trying to teach about these very difficult stories. So when you have people watch the film, is that the message that you want them to take away, that they feel connected to this, that they do something after watching it, or what is the message you'd like people to walk away with?
I think first of all is what we talked about before. There were women that fought back. And it's not just the men that we hear about here and there. It's also the women that took part, an active part in the underground and against the Nazis. So this is first of all. And second of all, never lose hope. Never give up. Like, it's the worst place ever. But like Anna said, we're not going away to die without a fight. And no matter the price or the cost, we're gonna fight back. She said, we're gonna die anyway, so let's do it with like dignity and honor, or with hope. And I think nowadays, like in Israel, like where the situation is so bad, I thought to myself about these sentences that Anna said, and a lot of the people that they were recruited to the underground, and she said, do you want to die with hope or do without hope? So the hope here, when you have such a horrible war, and the people are so cruel to each other, and I'm talking like here in Israel, also in the Hamas and all the situation in Gaza, which is so terrible. Just remember that maybe there's an end to it, and now that the hostages came back alive, the 20 of them, so we can also breathe a little bit. And like hope is something that you mustn't turn off.
Yes, I think hope is obviously such an important message to take away from the film for the entire international community. But that leads me to then ask, what has been the feedback of the film from the international community?
Yeah, so this is like a painful subject. In Israel, of course, it was very well received and succeed, and it won a prize, the Israeli Forum Documentary Award for the best film. In the Jewish world, it was received very well, but unfortunately, through the festival, the worldwide festivals, Berlin Festival, ITFA Festival, which is a very important festival for documentaries, the film wasn't selected and wasn't like considered at all. And it's I think it's because of the environment nowadays. Um, I can tell a little story about we had a very big premiere in Canada, which Anna lived in Canada, and we had the diary taken out from the archives, and it was a very big event with like ambassadors from a lot of places, and two ambassadors from Germany, and they came after the film, and like they were really touched and really excited by this movie. And I told them that this, and they tell me, you must have been in Berlin and like here and there. And I said, no, I was never selected in any of those. And like they were really shocked, and they said that that's impossible. And I don't want to, I want to be modest about my film, but because they told me, they said it's just an unusual film and it had to be something like, it should be screened like in if not in the A list, maybe the B list, but not to be chosen at all. It was really like peculiar. And nowadays it's very hard to bring films in festivals. It's something we talk about here in the community of the documentaries and also the fiction. It's really hard because now the doors are slamming in our faces and we hear about it again and again. And it's not like, I think like when you're a filmmaker and you do culture, it's something that it's beyond politics. And but it's just it's frustrating actually.
Yes, I could absolutely see how that would be frustrating because it's such an important film with such an important message, from then and now to today. So, to that note, then, for people that are so invested in watching the film, we have well over 400 people on our call today, and most of them have already screened the film. Where can people go to learn more about these heroic women? Where would you point them?
So first of all, I went to the Spielberg Museum, the Spielberg archives, and they can just write some keywords like Rosa Robota, the underground um, female Auschwitz, stuff like that. And if they want to see more about this story, and also, as I mentioned before, there's the book of Anna Heilman, which is called Far Away from Home, which tells the whole story, like from she was like a young girl and lived with a nanny, and they were very rich, and all about her school days, and then she was like in the Shomer HaTzair, and she was very political and very Zionist. And the ghetto, I didn't get to stay. There was so many stories I had to like, narrow it down to the story, but it's really great to just learn about Anna and the Polish life. And she wasn't like very religious. She didn't speak Yiddish. They were secular. Yeah.
Yes.
So
Well,
that's
thank
nice.
you. I would
And
definitely,
also there's Yad Vashem and also the yeah, and Washington Museum also. I took from there.
wonderful. Well, I would definitely encourage everyone to learn more about these brave women. But this is something that was very exciting to me when I found this out. Can you tell us a little bit about your next upcoming projects?
Okay, so after I was shocked that I have never heard about these women in Auschwitz, I thought to myself, maybe there's a lot of women and stories of female doing such bravery, such good and very big things, and I didn't hear of them. So I got, because I won the prize in Sabotage, they gave me money for my next project. And I thought that maybe I will take the money and just, research a little bit about of women doing something very big for the Israeli or Jewish events. And I learned that there were so many women, so many brave and very big women that made such huge difference in the building of this country and in the Jewish people, for the Jewish people. Um, it was really hard for me to select them, because like every woman that did something was just so full of heroism and bravery and thinking out of the box and fighting men to get to where they wanted to get. So eventually I thought it should be a series and not just like one film, but the public channel tell me, oh, slow down, you make a pilot and then we'll see if we like it. And I said, but Sabotage is the pilot and you loved it. Why do I need another pilot? But okay, this is the public channel. And so I did my first film, which was screened a debut in Doc Aviv. It's called Ada Sireni, the women in the black dress. And she actually was an Italian, and she helped all the refugees and the survivors of the Holocaust come to Israel in the Aliyah, in the boats, the secret under the noses of the British, because it was unallowed. They didn't have certificates. And so it's a very, very big story, because she didn't come, she was working as a commander in the Mossad. She was the first one to do so in such a big rank. But she was looking for her husband because he didn't come from the war. And this story like evolves and evolves, and it's a very huge story. And I used the same animator. It's also animated, and it's also a drama. So I got actors to do it, but like it's very, very small and one location. The woman is telling her story to a reporter. And also I found like a recording of Ada, also not a video, but audio. And she's telling the story, and I just like took her story and made it like come to life again under a very, very big actor here in Israel. She's called Noa Aharoni. I don't know if you know her, but she's a really huge, and people were stunned because she looked exact the same image as Ada. And so now I'm very pleased to say that I have 3 more episodes. So I'm going to do on the first doctor, female doctor here in Israel. She came to here to work, but it was very difficult. This is the story how she got her certificate here. And the other one is the agriculture mother of all Israeli foods and nutritious. It's amazing story. And the last one is again about the Holocaust, because I guess anyone is here knows who Janusz Korczak is, the great famous doctor and author. But few people know that he had a very, very big partner who actually made the orphanage, and she was called Stefania Wielczewska. And she was the one that was the mother of these kids. And nobody heard of her, of course, because the credit and the whole spotlight goes to Janusz. So these are the three women next I'm going to talk about, and it's really exciting to me to be able to tell these stories.
That's fantastic. I know all of us are going to be very excited and waiting for a lot of those to come out, so you'll have to keep us posted.
I will.
But we're going to begin taking audience questions now. So again, if you have questions for Noa, please write them in the Q&A section located at the bottom of your screens, and we'll get to them shortly. So the first one here said, were there moments in making the film that were especially moving or challenging for you personally?
I think that because I didn't really, like you said, I never went to one shot. I like didn't use a camera. Everything was archive, animation. So I didn't get to see and to interview. So I think like it's a different kind of like filmmaking, because I didn't get to know these characters, and I saw them a lot of hours of talking. But of course, like when you saw Anna and you see it in the film when she gets really, really like emotional and talking about her sister and saying that she didn't want to live anymore, of course, like it really touched me. But because again, it wasn't me interviewing her, so like there's a slight difference when you interview someone instead of seeing it in the archive. But I must say that I think because this story has been 80 years ago, it's kind of like helps me to tell the story, because now I did two horrific movies about the female observers in Gaza. They were soldiers and they were kidnapped and murdered, and I did two films about that. So like for me, it was like the most worst kind of documentation, because it was here and now and it was bleeding, and still like 3 weeks after the attack, I was like already filming the families. They didn't even know some of them didn't even know where their daughter were until they got the so that was like, I think that when I take subjects like so horrific, like the Holocaust, because we have perspective, and you know that after the Holocaust, as much as it was the most horrific event in history for the Jewish people, there came a state afterwards, and something good came out of it, if you can say that even. But now I'm here and I'm living, and and all the Jewish people and the Israeli state is very strong, so we have perspective. So it's much easier to tell that way a story, versus when I'm doing something that is now bleeding. And it was called Soldiers of Nobody, because nobody heard them, because they were on the fence looking to Hamas, seeing their organization, seeing their going to the fence, reporting everything to their commanders, but nothing had been done, like for months and months and end. So this is why I took this on myself, because again, it's a female movie. It's a female soldiers. So I wanted to tell that story again. So it's really important to me to tell stories about women heroism, and as much as it's very, very hard for me, I'm doing it gladly, because they need a voice.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Another one of our viewers today is asking, how do you hope this film contributes to Holocaust education today?
Yeah, so I have a dream, but it didn't come out yet because of budget, of course. I want to do this film. I want to take only the animation, and I want to like create 20 minutes film of only the animation. And of course, like to do a little script writing and then add a little bit, but then to screen it in the USA, schools, mid schools, high schools, but I'm having obstacles now because I don't have the budget. I have the platform where to do it, with who to do it, but I don't have the budget to take the animation and like do it like a little bit more, and maybe just maybe like to do it with colors even, because I want the young generation to see it. So this is my thoughts, but I think when people see it, they really connect to it. But I think it should be more educational.
Wonderful. Thank you. One person said that the ballet shoes walking to the gallows was especially poignant. How did you come up with that decision to include that in the film?
I knew it from the start. Like when I read that she was a dancer, because Anna told in the backstory in the childhood that she was a very great dancer, ballet dancer, and then I saw that image. I really saw that image. Like this is what happens to me when I direct. I start seeing images at night, and then like ideas come to me.
Great. Were there any details or stories that didn't make it into the final cut that you wish could have been included? I'm sure probably many.
Wow, yeah, there's a lot. I think maybe how Anna was like in the ghetto, because she was running around and putting posters on, and like starting then to be in the underground. And she was really tough, and she was really brave, and she was the one that wanted to do the thing. And I think this is something in her character that was building up when she was very young, like she was 12 in the ghetto. And there's a lot of stories, but you can't just put them all in. Yeah.
Absolutely. One person would like to know, where is the diary now, Anna's diary?
The diary is in Canada, in Ottawa, in a museum, in the archives, and it's really well preserved. And it was taken out just for the screening. People were like went and across it and saw it. It's written all in Polish. It's in Polish. She wrote the diary in Auschwitz. And then when the inquiries started, the questioning started, she burned it. And then when she got out of Auschwitz, and she went with Marta to Belgium, after like six months after, she recreated the journal and wrote it again.
Wow,
So
that's
this is,
unbelievable.
yeah.
Um, Brittany would like to know where they can direct others to watch the film, and is it on any streaming or any platform?
No, not for now. I would be glad to come to any events that you will offer. But now there's no streaming for this film.
Thank you. Sue wants to know, as part of a Jewish writers community, the story Jewish writers writing on Jewish subject matter being excluded from consideration for publication or reviews is a constant issue. However, there are few publishers or publishers specifically focused on Jewish subject matter from Jewish writers. Can you address that a little bit more?
Can you just can you explain to me a little bit about your question again?
Yes, I think she's saying that, there are a lot of instances, unfortunately, of Jewish subject matter being excluded for consideration, like you were mentioning in the film festivals. But then she's also saying there's a problem that there are few publishers that are focused on Jewish projects. So then you have this sort of issue of where do these important pieces like yours get placed? And I think she wanted to hear a little bit more about that.
I think that actually, I think it's just the Jewish community giving our backs, holding our backs, and being together, the whole Jewish community, because out there is a lot tougher. Um, And I will say that it's not only Jewish subjects, but also Israeli subjects. People don't want to see Israeli films. They want just to do, they want one-sided. They want to hear about the Palestinians. And for me, I'm not a left wing at all. I'm not right wing. I'm a left wing. So for me, I understand the importance of telling the story, the two sides of the story, the Palestinians, obviously, but also, you can't just erase the Jewish story or the Israeli story. And now we have a little difficulty. So I think we just have to stick together. And this is what our nation and also the Jewish people are good at, I think. This is how we've survived so many years. Everyone wants to I don't want to sound like paranoid and everything, but I think everybody, like, when you go to the Pesach and the Haggadah, and you say every generation, every dor v'dor, עומדים עלינו לכלותנו. It means you want to perish us. So we just have to stick with each other. I don't know if it answers the question. I'm sorry.
No, that's great. Thank you. Mary said that I love the beauty of hearing the Hebrew in the narration. What made you want to include the combination of English and Hebrew in the film?
It's very simple. It wasn't me, it was the public Israeli television, because they had a great difficulty when I wanted Anna to be the main character, but they said, but she's talking English. But this is a Hebrew Israeli channel. So I told them, because at first I wanted it to be in Polish, like in the original journey was the original diary was in Polish, so I wanted to bring an actor which is Polish, and they didn't go with that. So I told them, you take Anna, and I will do the narration in Hebrew. There was like a bargain. Yeah.
Great. Michael, who's a teacher, says, for a student who has not had much Holocaust education, are there a list of terms from the film that students might not understand? If not, he says that he can make a list and then a glossary and share it, and this might encourage teachers like him to be able to use this film in their classrooms.
I think that's great. Is there a question there?
Yes, so there's not a glossary of terms that you have that you think people might find difficult, younger students? Or is that something that teachers could create and help their students with?
I think so. I think that this film is self-explanatory. I think that I think that every term that I'm using in this film is like logic and are explainable throughout the film. So I don't think there's any terms that you don't understand. So I think it's great. I wouldn't, of course, show it to elementary school, but I think like from mid school, it's fine to see it, and people, students watch it. Also I was in the States and they watched it, and in schools, yeah.
Wonderful. Anita mentions that you say that Anna was in Shomer Hatzair. Did she join a kibbutz after the war?
She didn't join a kibbutz. She came to the city. She made Aliyah. She went to Israel. She was here. Her two daughters were born in Israel, Ariela and Noah, same as me. And then they left to New York a little bit, and then to Canada after Anna's husband. They had to find a job. He was teaching, and she was a social worker here in Israel, and then again in the places they lived in.
Great. Ziva mentions, could you say again what was the name of the Italian woman who saved the Jews that you were working on?
Yeah, sure. Ada Sereni. Ada Sereni, she was looking for her husband, Anso Sereni. Now, the thing is that Anso Sereni is very known in Israel because he has a kibbutz on his name, Kibbutz Sereni. Netzel Sireni it's called. But it's not, but she didn't have a street on her name, not even a fountain or nothing. She just, it's not, and she did a lot for the Jewish people. It's just amazing. This woman, she was 40 years old. She left 3 kids in the kibbutz, and she went to look for her husband. And then she found a big role for her to do.
Great,
Ada
thank you.
Seren.
Bridget would like to know, how might we watch your other documentaries? Is there any way for people to access them?
No. I think if you know Hebrew, so you can watch like the 2 films I mentioned about the soldier, Nobody's Soldier, and 477 Days. It's about the observer that came back home. 5 of them came back home. One was murdered. One was murdered in the captivity, and one was saved by the Israeli IDF. It's called, but I don't know if you don't know Hebrew, so it would be because it's in the YouTube in Israeli channel, and the Israeli channel is free, and you can tune in to Canbox if you have, or YouTube, and write it down. But if you don't know Hebrew, so that's a little difficult.
Yes. So could you also speak a little bit more about the work that you did speaking to the relatives of those that survived from the resistance movement?
The relatives, you mean like Ariela and
Yeah.
Sheldon?
Mhm.
Okay, so Ariela and me are very, very good friends. I love her. She's a lot like her mother, I think. I don't know if she would like that very much because they were so like, sometimes there were fights a lot because they're very strong women. And she's really she loved the film, and she comes to see it, and now actually she's in Illinois, Chicago, um representing the film and talking about her mother. Sheldon is the husband of Noa, the other daughter of Anna, and he was the one that helped um, to give the diary life and make a book out of it. And he was the one helping her to translate it in English and making note remarks and like explaining everything. And we were and he gave us all the pictures for the film, and it was a great to work with them. They were really excited about this movie, and of course to see their mother come to life and tell her story and be public and published. There was one Australian, you see it, and at the end that it was still alive when the film was aired. Now, of course, she's no longer with us because she was like really very, very old. But again, because I didn't want people to be memory agents, I was just looking for the testimonials and not too much to know about their families. Only Anna, because Anna was really a big storyteller in the film. She was the hero of the film, actually.
Great, thank you. One of our viewers wants to know if you could relate your film to The Gray Zone. I'm not sure if you've seen that movie.
Yeah, of course I did. If I can, like tell about the differences between them. Okay,
Sure, maybe
first
the
of all,
difference in approaches.
yeah, first of all, the Gray Zone is not the real story. It was like made up. Some of that was like all the women part in there, like it was really it was not it's not the story. Just they made up a story. So that was really really strange because you're telling a true story, but you just whatever you like, and that was like this is not what happened at all. Um, Again, the gray zone is talking mostly of the Sonderkommando, and I think there they did a nice job. All the things regarding the woman was absurd to me. Yeah.
Thank you.
And also there was this son, if you saw, of Laszlo Nemes, the Hungary. It was great movie. But again, you see just a bit of Rosa Robota and a little bit of what's happening there, but mostly it's about the men again.
Mhm. Well, we have a lot of people asking about your upcoming projects and the names of your other films. So I won't make you list all of them again now, but you'll have to send us a list of them so that we can send them out in the post-event email that we send to everyone, because I think people are very excited about your future projects.
I think there's one project it's about the Holocaust, and it was really successful. And also it was in IDFA festival. It was in the competition, which was a very big deal. It's called Shadows, and it's about the second generation of the Holocaust that have been abused by their parents. And it was a really big taboo subject because nobody talked about that. The aspects of the survivors, like passing the trauma to their children, but in a very physical and emotional trauma way. And for the first time, there's three heroes that I took to the film, two men and one woman, and they were telling like very difficult and hard stories about their parents. And it was received very well. It also won a prize of the forum documentary. And it was really a big subject that was opened here. And after that, a lot of people approached me and wanted to talk about it. And like in the audience, people would come to me and would say, I'm a child of like in Hebrew it's Yaldat Tzalim, it's like children of shadows or children of the shadows. And they would like, it's a term that I made up, and because shadow is something that you don't, it's not existing, but it's there. And so people really related to that because the shadows like still following us wherever we go. And there's a lot of people that talked about it, about this very, very difficult, because you don't want to like trash the survivor after what they've been through. But actually, if it makes sense that if they had such a horrific time, they would pass it on. And there was only one study about that. So now I'm happy to say in many places of the Holocaust and second generation, they're opening up a dialogue about that. And people can air it and can tell their stories, because it's also, I'm just giving a little bit also for the third generation that have been traumatized also by their parents. So like it's on an ongoing situation.
Yes, I think it shows that while the Holocaust may have been over 80 years ago, its effects are not over, and its importance certainly isn't over as well. So Noa, we truly appreciate your time and your insights today. It's been a fascinating discussion. The film Sabotage will be available to stream through tomorrow evening, and we'll share the link in the chat again. And we hope all of you can join us on Sunday, November 9th at Huntington Place for our 41st anniversary benefit honoring Zena Kramer with a keynote address by Professor Deborah Lipstadt. Thank you all so much for being here today. Stay connected with us by visiting our website, holocaustcenter.org, and have a wonderful afternoon.
Thank you, Katie.
Thank you.
You were terrific.
You as well.